You're listening to Force Majeure, an actual play Star Wars podcast. My name is Adam and I'm your host, and today's episode will be brought to you after these words from our sponsors.
Hey y'all, it's me, your friendly representative of the Hydian Way Holo Broadcasting Consortium, here to remind you that due to the wild success of last year's event, we will be hosting another AfaCon on Port Haven. See artifacts retrieved, tour the ship, and meet the crew of the Queen of Air and Darkness, the dashing host and Captain Vern Arthur, Archaeology and Education Advisor Modi, and the entire film, sound, and editing team, Lorenzo. But don't take my word for it.
After last year, AfaCon is this Gant's favorite convention. Have learned a lot at Lorenzo's slicing seminar, and the fireworks at the closing ceremony were the best Illyn has ever seen. So much wonderful fire.
Yes, I went to AfaCon. Such an informative place with discussions on amazing things, like the refractive properties of the Stygium gems. And then there was this puffer pig dodgeball that was amazing. For all those people who are needing a fulcrum to change their stars, you can find it at AfaCon, for it is the last best hope of the galaxy.
Join us on Port Haven for the second annual AfaCon. Oh yeah, onward.
Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 9 of the Coldfire Chronicles. My name is Adam and I'm your host, and I am joined around the virtual table by...
Hi, I'm Mikey. I'm playing Jiren, a Chiss mystic advisor. His emotional strength is his enthusiasm, but his emotional weakness is his recklessness.
Hi, my name's Ed Fortune and I play the character of Oberon Brick. He is a human hunter-seeker, his emotional strength is justice, and his emotional weakness is cruelty.
Hi, I'm Mim, and I play Lasa. She is a human sentinel artisan. Her emotional strength is her curiosity, but her weakness is obsession.
Hi, I'm Ross. I'm playing Agatha, a Morian warrior aggressor colossus, whose emotional strength is his pride, but whose weakness is also his obsession.
And before we get going, do we have a question from our characters?
Jiren?
Yes, hello.
You've done this before.
Oh, many times.
And I hesitate to ask, but how did it go horribly wrong in the past?
Oh, number of different ways. There is so many things that can go wrong with a heist. The main problem is when you do crime, you do it with criminals, and criminals cannot be trusted.
Just set my mind at ease. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, we could end up on a planet made mostly of ice, digging for seemingly ice as well, doing very, very little for years upon years upon years. Let's say, for example, if you end up trying to steal from the banking clan, Third Bank of Caristi, you might end up being the point man who breaks into the safe, and your first mate being the wheels man, that when you push all of the gold into the back of the ship, decides that it's easier to split things one way rather than two ways.
I see.
Yes, it can end up being very icy.
That fills me with confidence. I'm pretty sure I can't be convicted for what I did twice. They'll probably just kill me. That's fine.
Well, I trust all of you. So it will be... Oh, no, wait, that was the problem firstly. Trust. The biggest problem with heists is trust. Don't trust anybody. But trust us. But nobody else. But not us. And maybe... Lots of things can go wrong in a heist, my friend. But this time will be different.
I'm filled, I say, with confidence. Thank you, Jiren.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here to rally the troops. Oh, we're all going to die.
So, before we start play properly, we are doing a heist. Finally, the long-promised heist. Coming back all the way to Season 1, Episode 5, in which we argued the definition of what a heist was, we are finally here. And there's going to be a couple of house rules in play for this heist to try and keep things a little bit more fast-paced and fluid. Which is drawn, let's be honest here, quite heavily from Blades in the Dark. Forged in the Dark games are the best possible ways you can have to run a heist. That's what they're set up for, and they are a whole lot of fun. So, taking some of the inspiration from Blades in the Dark for running this, here's the rules that are going to be in effect for my players to draw upon. As you might recall from the last episode, I kind of abstracted over the shopping and prep phase of the heist. If my players, at some point on this heist, you think that you would have something in your possession that you picked up during that shopping phase, you can either spend a light side point to have it, as long as it's like within reason and available and something you could have on your person. You know, no flipping over to produce from your back pocket a B2 rocket droid, for example, but data slates, that sort of stuff, grenades maybe. You can either flip a light side point to have it, or you can make me a 2 difficulty vigilance check to have remembered to have bought it. Similar really to the utility belt talent that all of you effectively have for the duration of this heist. There is also, in effect, if something happens in the heist and you want to have a flashback to either when you discussed what was going to happen if this scenario arose back in the hotel room, or to have a flashback to have gone, I knew something like this was going to happen, luckily we set Prinkle outside to do this. Again, that is something that is open to you to do. Flashbacks are always good fun. How much that will cost you in terms of either strain or light side points or whatever depends on what it is that you want to have set up and done, really. This one's going to be a bit more fluid because, like, obviously Bill and Tedding something is far more complicated than having a snatch style conversation about it. But this is something we can discuss in play. But again, it might come down to a vigilance test to see if you remember to have done something. It might come down to a light side flip. It might cost nothing. It's just a case of you can flash back and have had this conversation ready to adapt to what's going on. The last kind of house rule that's going to be in effect is threat clocks. Now, I play with threat clocks generally in this game, but a lot of them are kind of behind the scenes, and you don't really know what I'm doing with them, what's going on. In the interests of heist transparency and also to build some of that tension, if and when you start rolling threats, I will be starting threat clocks, which will build up to have something bad happen, but I will tell you what that threat clock is and how many threats before it triggers, because I think that extra bit of tension and pressure knowing that one more dodgy roll is going to have something bad happen, I think will make this a lot more exciting for you, and by extension a lot more exciting for me and the listeners. So this is something that's going to be a lot more upfront with for the course of this heist, because I think it's going to be good fun.
I'm already bouncing with anticipation here. This is going to be... I'm very excited, you know.
So yeah, those are the house rules that are going to be in effect for the course of this game. Before we get into this properly, we are going to roll the Destiny pool. I think it's an appropriate point to recharge Destiny, and also our players have been looking at my 6 dark side points, their 2 light side points, and are giving me imploring Prinkle-esque eyes. So let's re-roll our Destiny pool. Big Papa Beltane is bringing 2 dark side points to the table.
I'm bringing 2 light side points.
1 dark side point.
1 dark side point.
And 1 dark side point.
So, as a result of this, they have gone from facing 6 dark side points to their 2 light side points, to facing 5 dark side points to their 2 light side points. So, there we go. And before we even get going, because certain things have been in foot, I'm flipping a dark side point straight off the bat. Our players will find out what that's about as we go into play. So, without any further ado, Operation Wiggly Worm commences, and our cameras open on the tech quarter of Port Haven. It is late morning. There are hobbits somewhere having second breakfast. Curse them. The sun is shining down quite brightly. There is the sounds of commerce in Port Haven. It is bustling. There are hawkers crying from shops, not that hawker, but actual hawkers crying out from shops. There is the crash of waves and cheers from criminals that are surfing and enjoying themselves. There is the thrum of technology. There is speeders moving around. You can hear JAL 360 style shopping droids shouting out, "You okay, Han?" kind of echoing through the streets. And ahead of our heroes in the tech quarter, we see the Auchol Collective compound, in the shape of a large squared-off donut. It is 3 stories high, or thereabouts, and the centre of the donut is a square hole in the roof that is sealed over and is some form of entranceway for freighters, for ships, From your surveillance, you couldn't work out whether or not they opened up and then the ships landed in, or if the ships landed on like a lift that then dropped them down to ground level and then shutters came over the top. But it is definitely a covering, an opening cover for an internal landing pad. And when I say that this place can take at least one freighter, that will hopefully give you some idea of the size of this compound. It is a big, like warehouse type complex. There are 3 entranceways into the complex. There is what is clearly the reception way. It is fronted in mirrored glass. There is openings. There is a Steve droid standing outside, pistols on hips, with a Stetson made of some form of beast hide, which the Steve droid is tipping as people go past. There is a second entranceway around if you're coming facing the entranceway, it's on the left-hand side, which is clearly some form of employee's entrance, in that it is not bright and shining and welcoming and engaging. It is a dirty old door, but again has a Steve droid slightly less obvious in front of it. The Steve droid round that side has their camouflage patterning in effect on their protocol droid body, so they're a little bit more obtrusive. And then round the back of the compound, again you'll see from having staked it out, is a much larger series of cargo bay doors, which is where products and shipping crates are being moved in and moved out. It is clear that the hunting scam that the Auchol Collective is running on behalf of the Brick family is not the only industry going on in this building. They are clearly operating some form of freight company or storage facility or cargo processing facility in here as well. And there is some activity on a fairly regular basis from the stakeout that you've done, where you've seen kind of like, again, JAL droids coming in and out and load lifters and that sort of thing, and speeders kind of bringing goods in and bringing goods out. There are security cameras on every corner, focusing primarily on the doorways in and out. There are no security cameras on the right-hand side of the complex, but there is also no doorways and no windows on that side of the complex either. Our camera pulls back from the compound and we see a long, not quite limousine-esque luxury speeder, but certainly a nice speeder with blackened windows and plenty of chrome pull up a street away from the Auchol Collective compound. Through the heavily tinted windscreen, we can just make out, is that a Chadrafan silhouette driving, wearing a peaked chauffeur's cap, with perhaps a broom propped up in the passenger seat at the front? Who can tell? Certainly not the people passing by on the streets looking with curiosity at which celebrity may have come to visit this part of the tech quarter. The doors on the left-hand side of the stretched speeder slide open. Who gets out?
Agatha gets out. He's slightly more disguised than we've last seen him. He's dressed all in black. It's a elegant-looking suit. It's still definitely to sort of emphasise physique rather than for style points, but nevertheless there is a sense of style about it. There's an implication at least of sort of Kevlar-lined suit. This is someone you don't want to be messing with. In order to disguise some of his more distinctive features, he has the slight itch of wearing a wig. He is wearing a hairpiece and some sideburns to cover his facial tattoos at the moment. And I'm not quite sure what the Star Wars version of shades are going to be.
They're just shades.
They're just shades. Okay, fair enough.
After Agatha, Jiren glides out from behind him. He is not wearing a black suit. He is wearing a very light linen suit. And linking it to our Shadows of the Jedi, it's white. Because I think Chiss should wear white suits. It kind of suits them. It's a very light thing. It's clear that he's not got anything hidden. He's not got a weapon or anything like that. It is a suit for style rather than for function. He turns on his very shiny shoes, steps back to a second door in the stretch speeder and opens it to allow...
Coming out of the vehicle, wearing sunglasses, his hair is dyed black and sits slicked back. He has a moustache and an anchor beard. His very, very pale skin against the dark hair. As he steps out, firstly we see his crate skin shoes, And then we see this high Zeltronian style three-piece suit made out of Govath treed in a somber grey. The lines are a traditional imperial cut. The waistcoat is lined with a Pantoran cast silk, and it's night black, so it's sucking in all the light, which makes them look even paler. The neck piece is a light purple Undoran silk, and the only piece of light you can see is on his belt. There is a very, very small ceremonial knife as he steps out.
Agatha will have taken this moment to speak into some form of microphone to imply there are more of us out there than just the 4 of us. 5 of us, sorry.
I think before we see Lasa, it is very clear at the moment that myself and Agatha's suits are functional for the roles we have, whereas Oberon's suit is just style.
Whereas Oberon's suit is pretty much all of Lasa's nest egg.
Great skin, really? Do we have to pay extra for that?
Oh, he'll have cut corners because he'll know how to. But it's like, how much?
I could buy a ship with what you're wearing.
Yeah. Yeah, for one of your shoes, we got all of the rest of our clothes.
It was having the mustache artificially grown.
Yeah. Force-grown mustache.
You just have a very, very small back to tank just on your top lip for 24 hours.
Just stick your head in this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out where the engineer gets out of that car, but I feel like I'm probably in a staff car somewhere else.
No, you're the high-value tech person, so you're in the back of the car with him.
I am?
Yeah.
Oh my word.
You're his tech guru person. You are definitely... You're not staff. You are there as an expert.
All right. So, in a pair of slim, slender shades with small circles, and her hair in a tight, tidy bun, steps out Lasa. Spanners to her friends now. She's wearing a skirt. It's unheard of. This pencil graphite grey suit, which has got lots of pockets. There's a pen protector. You can see that there's space in a small lab coat which she's got over her for, pockets full of trinkets, things like this. And she's clutching a bag with what looks like more tech work in there. And she just pushes her glasses slightly up her nose, and if anyone spots the eyes behind them, they are panicked as she's walking in small kitten heels to try and give the impression of an attractive, successful, feminine computer scientist who's clearly better than everybody else. She's just going to stay completely quiet, grip her bag, look at a data slate very quickly, and walk behind Oberon.
The doors to the stretch speeder hiss closed. The silhouette of the Chadrafan chauffeur looks out through the side passenger window, touches the brim of the chauffeur hat, and pulls away into the streets.
Okay, we own this place. We are in charge. If you have an emotion, keep it to yourself. Okay? Okay. And we start walking.
I imagine you're heading to the main entrance, the reception entrance.
We are, and I'll tell you for why. There are 2 guards that I can't do anything about, and we can only really deal with violently, because they're droids. One of them is in front of the staff area, and we are not staff, so we would have to have an altercation with that guard. The other one is front of the reception area, and he is not a receptionist, so we can probably, if we look like we're supposed to be there, walk straight past him.
You stride confidently towards the main reception doorway. As you get within about 10 foot or so, the Steve droid raises its right hand, touches the brim of its hat and goes, "Well, howdy there. Welcome to the Auchol Collective. Are you here for business or pleasure?
Business.
Do you have an appointment, perhaps?"
We do not need an appointment, but you can announce us if you wish.
"I surely shall. I'm sure our reception staff will be more than willing to assist you. What name shall I say is calling?"
Brick. There's a pause.
The droid freezes very slightly in that way that droids do. And then there's a nod, and the right hand comes up and removes the Stetson and flourishes it round and over their chest, and then bows deeply, but without taking their eyes off Ed. In fact, their vision is kind of locked on. "Well, welcome very much to the compound." And The droid's left hand reaches out, grips the handle of the door to the side of it, and pulls the door open, still not moving from this bow. In a organic, this would probably be a very uncomfortable pose to hold for any length of time.
Immediately dismiss the droid, who is, he is not a threat anymore. The concepts we need to follow with this is that they need to fill in the gaps, not us, so we don't give him any more stuff than we already have, and we walk in.
It is clear that there has been a message passed to reception from the droid.
Mm-hmm.
The reception area is large, it is grand, it is polished white marble floors and white marble pillars. It is a vision of opulence which is quite out of place for somewhere like Port Haven. Because Port Haven, let's be fair here, is a hive of scum and villainy. It's an upmarket hive of scum and villainy, but it's no Canto Bight. You know, this could be lifted from Canto Bight. It is that sort of glitter. There is gilt edging. It's very baroque. The reception desk itself is, again, it is polished marble, a slightly different colour. Whereas the floor is white polished marble, the desk has kind of greyish striations and patterning through it. The fact that it looks slightly flawed means that it is probably even more valuable than the floor. It is those kind of intentional defects that Ed will know marks it out as a thing of quality. It is wildly out of place. Behind the reception desk, there is a Zeltron of indeterminate gender. Their hair is shaved tightly at the sides, but comes up to a long and very elaborate ponytail crest, which is a deep purple hair down their back. Their skin is a rich pink. They are wearing a very well tailored two-piece suit.
So what Oberon's doing as soon as we come in is he's taking long stares at various things as if he's taking a mental stock. What I'm actually doing is I'm looking for points of egress, points of attack and all the rest of it, which is exactly what his family would do. But at the same time, I'm like, those light fittings are standard, that marble is standard, and I'm pricing, because they are a family that knows the cost of everything but the value of nothing. So he is totting it all up in his head, and at some point I will lean over to my chase advisor and I will say something that is utterly inaudible, because I'm not actually saying anything, but I will lean over and say something utterly inaudible and slightly enigmatic, in a way that I have seen many other Balthazars do many times.
Yeah. In terms of points of egress and ingress in here, then, there are lots of cameras in this room, and some of those cameras are paired to blaster rifles, similar to the kind of the point defense security in Altered Carbon and that sort of stuff that pops out in the Raven.
Mm-hmm.
You know, camera paired with rifle just in case.
This is a kill zone.
Yep. It is a kill zone, yeah. You can't help but notice that around the reception desk there is barely perceptible shimmer of what is probably some form of energy shield.
Mm-hmm.
There is a door on the left-hand side which is unobtrusive.
Yeah.
There are no handles to it. It doesn't slide in or out. It is a disguised doorway. It's not disguised so that you go, ooh, I am not aware that there is a doorway here. It is disguised in such a way that it doesn't break the aesthetic of the room, while at the same time being clearly a way for things to come out of, not necessarily go into. That's on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, there is a more traditional mirror glass set of sliding doors, again with a little camera ahead of them, and you can just about make the silhouettes of something beyond there, another room beyond there. The receptionist stands up as you enter, nods, and says, "Good morning. We weren't expecting your arrival?"
That is correct, I say, walking up. Jiren is all smiles apart from his eyes, which are hard and unforgiving. He's doing this on purpose. He is basically, you know how Jiren basically smiles with his eyes. He is doing exactly the opposite at the moment. He is quite clearly pleased, but it can change on a dime.
Just as a mental exercise, and also something that the character has been taught to do, I'm figuring out how quickly I can kill the Zeltronian, but looking at them dispassionately.
Agatha is stood on whichever side of Oberon will protect him the most from the inevitable amount of gun ports when they're around the room.
Okay, so Jiren walks up, stands maybe 3 or 4 feet away from the actual desk. Mr. Brick is unhappy with how the collective has been running over the past few months. The sightings of the prodigal and finality have upset Mr. Brick. He is therefore here to review. Do you understand? And it's weird because Jiren is not speaking in his normal happy-go-lucky. He's very serious and very stern, and there's no trace of an accent.
I think I would like from you either a coercion or... I don't think it's charm.
I'm happy with coercion.
Yeah, I think coercion test, and it's going to be 1 red, 2 purple, because it's opposed.
Can I add a boost dice by simply glowering?
Yeah, I think I'm going to allow 2 boost die from the collective impact of the presentation and the group.
Okay. Oh dear. So that is 3 advantage, 1 despair, and 2 black dots on my force die. That is not a good roll. I am going to take those dark side points so we can make this into a success, but we'll still take the despair. That's a terrible roll. Oh my word.
It is. So, right, you don't need to flip to use the dark side points, but you will take strain and conflict.
Yeah, yep.
So that turns into a success.
A success, 3 advantage, and a despair. And I think that the reason I am tapping into the dark side is because Jiren is now really playing up into his I am a hardened criminal side of things. He's a lot of negative emotions pushing. He's emulating a lot of this negativity to make him seem like he is a more threatening person than he should actually be. And maybe he's tapping into something that's already there. Maybe it's not all an act. He was a criminal for a long time. He's had to have done some pretty bad things. And this is him getting back into his original roots. This is falling back into the standard pace of himself. And I'll be honest, it probably feels a little good for him to be in control. A despair out the bat. This is going to be fantastic.
The receptionist, they furrow their brow a little and say, "That is unusual, because Facilitator Gantares was speaking to Graf Balthazar only yesterday, and the message we received from Graf Balthazar was that the family were happy with our efforts so far. I think you're going to need to speak to the Facilitator about this."
We will need to speak to him, this is correct. And I wonder if you are aware what a surprise inspection is.
More than aware, sir, especially here on Port Haven. And they gesture with their left hand and the sliding doors open, and beyond that you can see a smaller room with a turbo lift and a set of stairs that also kind of spiral up. If you would like to make your way to the reception suite on the top floor, I'll make sure that Facilitator Gantares is aware of your arrival, and that you're suitably greeted while you wait to discuss matters with him.
Acceptable.
And you head in.
I'm staying very quiet at the back for all of this and mostly playing around on my data slate. Is there any chance I can, I don't know, be in on the communications that are happening? Can I get access to the communications that have been between Balthazar and Cypher? And also know what this receptionist is going to say? Because if she's going, "We've got a load of idiots here," I'd like to know.
So, you have had access to some of their communications. That was what was put in with the Worm program, and that's where you got up to at the end of last episode. To get access unobtrusively here, yes, but if you start typing on your data slate here where there's this many cameras, it's going to be very obvious, but you can certainly try to do it if you want to. You also know that when you get to a wired terminal, which there will be somewhere in this building, that's when you can get in and basically get unfettered access to a lot of their systems and to the Steve shutdown commands and that sort of stuff. But if you want to start whipping out your data slate here in reception, you can. If you want to wait until you're through the door and then either up the stairs or the turbo lift before you start tinkering, that's something you can do. You're on their Wi-Fi.
Think I'll wait then and just have an interesting page of equations come up, like a couple of their past communiques, so any cameras will see that, well, they must be official, they've got access to the official communiques.
As soon as we're in the turbo lift, I will position myself between 2 cameras.
Well, being a little hasty there, are you planning on going in the turbo lift straight up to the top floor, or do you want to take the opportunity to snoop around here first, or do you want to go up the stairs rather than the lockable lift?
What I would like to do is, just after the reception thing, is wait until we're a distance away from reception, but still while we're being observed on camera. So whoever is watching us is still watching us. and can probably hear what I'm saying. And what I will say is, I see my idiot little brother has already arrived. We may need to have a party for two sometime in the future.
The room where the turbo lifts are in is a fairly small room. There is a turbo lift in it. There is stairs, as I say, that spiral up. There is also another door to the north. And from the layout of the building, from where these doorways are, effectively, if you imagine the square, the bottom arm of the square is where the reception is, the room to the left, the room to the turbo lift, and it's clear that there is something that runs up the right arm of the square as well, at the very least. Whether there's anything more in the donut, you don't know. So that's kind of where you are, in the corner where there's clearly more up that limb ahead of you, and then there's the stairs up. Do you want to know what the despair and the associated clock is now, or do you want to wait until Lasa's hacked the comms?
Shall we wait until Lasa's hacked the comms and then you can tell us?
I'm all for keeping the threat clocks transparent for the most part, but I think that this coming off the back of the despair, I think it's going to be a bit more fun.
It's a good start, isn't it?
It's a good start.
I mean, I was going to add a thought on the turbo lift and the stairs. Are the bricks the kind of family who, because they go in for physical pursuits like hunting, are more likely to set their own pace of things and go up the stairs rather than wait on the defined speed of a machine, which is also, as we say, sort of a kill box and can be locked? Or are we just going to go with the convenience of it'll take us upstairs very quickly?
So, flashing back, I will have explained that it's all about shows of force, but also about shows of grace. So when you can look stylish, wait, and then show force. So there's no one to impress by beating someone up the stairs, but if there was someone to impress by beating them up the stairs, then he would do so.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I wasn't thinking racing someone up the stairs. I was just thinking you are setting your own pace of movement as you went. But
yeah,
and therefore a sort of a subtle indication of dominance.
Actually, what we'll do is we'll get to the left. I look to Agatha and nod, because I'm expecting the security detail queue to be the lift is safe.
Fair enough. This is Agatha's jurisdiction. So yeah, I do my due diligence in checking whether a small contained space is, as safe as we want it to be.
So heading into the turbo lift, it's quite a nice turbo lift. There are 3 floors, including the ground floor, to this building, and the lift goes up to the top of them. They're not labelled, there's just the numbers. It's a sizable lift. It can easily fit all of you and probably about 4 or 5 more people in here. There are no cameras in the lift. There doesn't appear to be an emergency panel, in case you get locked in here. It's very simple, as I say, in terms of controls. There is just 3 buttons, 1 for each floor, and that's all there is in here. The inside of the lift is mirrored.
Yeah, it's like the opening of the building is sort of like a handshake. You're checking for each other's weapons. We're looking for, can we see all their cameras and weapons straight away, and they're doing the same as we walk into the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm going to guess the mirrors are 2-way mirrors as well.
So we take the lift.
Okay.
Yeah. Adam, my free advantage, can we also bank those? Because I didn't get to use it.
Yep, unless you have any ideas in the immediacy.
Well, I'm not sure, because whilst there was a despair, it was also a success. So I would like, hopefully, for her to have believed us, even though she has passed it further up. I would like us not to be murdered in the lift. That's a bonus. but other than that, I think we should just keep them, and then we'll use them as we do.
Yep, you can keep them banked for the time being. So you're in the lift, the doors slide closed. Where are you heading? The top floor is where Cyphus is and where you've been directed to go to. The ground floor is where you got in. There is a middle floor.
Follow their instructions so far?
Mm-hmm.
Jiren's asking.
I realise that we're not being monitored and go, is there any reason to go to the mid-floor? He said, looking at spanners, sorry. Do we need to delay? Do we need to do a further inspection, or do we want to go straight ahead? I would rather go straight to the throat.
Lasa isn't sure if we're being recorded or not, so she...
I'm willing to take tactical and technical advice here, but I think we should go straight to the top and deal with it. But if you want to check something out first, in case there's an irregularity that needs to be resolved, then please advise me now.
If you want to see whether or not this place has got any monitoring equipment in, you can either make a roll or Mikey can spend some advantage to this not having.
Yeah, well, shall we spend some advantage to not have any monitoring in here, or at least not have anybody monitoring the monitoring?
Yeah. Let's be free of monitoring, because otherwise I had to try and do Lasa with her accent, pretending not to have an accent. and it was all going to be rather posh, Mr. Brick, sir.
Well, let's have these three advantages to be. This is a private elevator for Cyphus, and therefore, whilst there is monitoring as you go to the elevator, there is no monitoring in the elevator.
Yep, I'm happy with that, more than happy with that. I'll say that's cost you 2 advantage, you've got 1 still in the bank.
Next person to roll something can have a boost then.
Okay, so Lasa, having checked on her data pad that this is a secure place, slumps a little rather than being completely uptight. To be honest, I think I just need to get to a panel so I can plug in. I don't know whether it would be easier to go straight there or whether there'd be somewhere I can, in the lobby where they want us to wait, where I could plug in. But if we go straight there, we'll certainly make an entrance. You can throw your weight around and I'm sure I'll be able to plug in anywhere you told me. Also, these heels are killing me.
Let's go for the throat.
Top floor.
Yeah, we press free.
And while you're in here, Mim, do you want to see if you can roll to hack their Wi-Fi to get on their comms?
Yes, now I know that we're not being observed, I will try and hack into their Wi-Fi.
Okay. This is a contested test. The difficulty is 3 red and a purple.
Oh no, I'm going to die.
You have 3 light side points currently in the bank.
And an advantage.
And a boost, yeah.
So 3 yellow versus 3 red and a purple, and I get a blue boost dice that's been
right.
passed forward from Duran. Oh god, no. I've only got 2 red dice, so I had to roll a red dice and then I'll roll it again, but sadly, that's 1 despair.
I feel slightly better now.
Yeah, it's not just you.
It's not just you. Oh no. I'm sorry. Okay, so that's 1 despair in the bank, another despair, and then there's 2 more failures and they cancel out my 2 successes, so what I'm left with is 2 advantage. So 2 despairs and 2 advantage.
That's not good, is it?
Are you happy now, Fate?
I think what's happened here is that we've not taken off our domino masks and the big, and the big bags with swag written on them. We're still carrying those.
Oh god, no.
Mim, I have a suggestion for those advantage if you want to hear it. My suggestion for those advantage is this. You have not succeeded in hacking into their system, okay? But you did manage to get 1 message, basically the most recent message that was being sent out before your access to their system has gone. What do you think? Or do you have another idea for what you want those advantage to be?
The only other idea I've got for those advantage is that they haven't worked out where this attempt has come from.
That works, actually.
Is it better to have the message, or is it better for them to know that there's been a hack from inside here and we're the newest people in?
I think for the purposes of your cover, not having blown your cover is probably better, because that was what one of those despairs was going to be. So, do you want to go with that then, that they don't realise?
I'm afraid what I'm going to do, everyone can see Lasa being a little panicked as she shuts down the data slate, erases everything, and then explains that I couldn't get in, I'm really sorry, and then I found that they were tracing me. They haven't found us, they don't know where that came from, but I couldn't get in. I need a landline-based access. I need to be able to plug in straight into the system.
Right. Agatha, I think it's going to be over to you sooner than we expected, so be prepared to punch people.
The lift makes its way to the top floor. The doors open. And you are presented once again with something of a bit of a scene of opulence. This room runs the entire length of the right-hand side of the donut. There are vid screens that are put in place of windows that show idyllic scenes from the beach of Port Haven, but with all of the pesky people edited out. And you know that these have to be vid screens because on this side of the building, in reality, is another building. It's not very elegant. There is very, very light music being piped through, kind of quite relaxing, soothing music. There are big, luxurious chaise longues and benches and couches and all that sort of thing. There is a droid running a wet bar There are snacks and dispensaries. This is a very upmarket reception suite for hosting honoured guests. At the far end of the room, there is another door. Extrapolating out from where you are, you imagine that that leads into a room or series of rooms that run across the top wall of the square, the north wall of the square, as it were. Outside of that door, in the room where you are and looking towards the lift, there are 5 Aqualish. Now, these Aqualish are wearing suits of a similar cut to Agatha. They all have light blaster pistols slung on their right hips, and on their left hips they have what is clearly extendable stun batons. They are standing kind of respectfully, not in a threatening position, but they are standing waiting at the end of this doorway, at the far corridor. And they are clearly ill at ease in these suits. It doesn't look like these suits have been made for them. It doesn't even look like these suits have been bought for them off the peg. It looks like these suits are probably on... this is what the security detail for the day wear, if you get me, as opposed to these are permanent employees. And as the lift doors ping open, the group of 5 kind of advance at a respectful speed and stop a bit away and go... the leader goes,
"Welcome, Mr. Brick. Unfortunately, Cyphus is just in the middle of a piece of work and cannot be disturbed. He will be with you in a few moments, but thanks you for your understanding of the vital work that he does here for your family. In the interim, can we interest you and your companions in a drink from the wet bar or something similar, perhaps a small repast? Some food or snacks. I assure you he won't be long at all."
I am unaccustomed to waiting. We'll stand. Adam?
Mm-hmm.
So just as I say we'll stand, there's a very slight, subtle nod towards Spanners. And flashback. So the night before the makeup went on and the beard was grown, Oberon pre-recorded a bunch of different backup emergency videos. This one, all the vid screens flash up with Oberon in like full kind of traditional uniform calling in a bomb threat. "This is the Prodigal. This building has a bomb, several bombs inside it. I suggest you leave very quickly or explode. Either way is good. Have a nice day."
Flip a light side point, you can have that, that's awesome.
Cool.
And that ties in very nicely, as I think it's about time to finally reveal what the accumulated despairs so far actually mean. Mim, one of your 2 despairs, they have blocked the loophole. Your back door has gone.
Oh no.
The shutdown commands and stuff that you programmed in are still there, but the loophole you were using to hack their system has now been exposed and identified, because you got it through advantage, and this despair trumps that advantage. I'm now going to tell you what the other 2 despairs come to. You are 5 ticks out of 10 before the Brick family arrive to find out who's impersonating them.
Yeah. Oh! And I'm wearing heels.
As a message has gone to reception, and Cyphus has gone, "Wait a minute. The clock is ticking." And I think at this point, as the warning of the Prodigal flags up on the TV monitors, as the Aqualish look taken aback, and as that clock starts to tick ever closer to the family coming to claim their wayward son, that is where I'm going to end the episode for today. Thank you very much to our players, thank you very much to our listeners, and before we go, this episode's patron is Rob McCready. At the time of recording this, Rob has only just started Season 2, so I think it's probably going to be some time before he hears this, so thank you for sticking with us throughout 4 more seasons. 3 more seasons? Thank you for sticking with us throughout several more seasons, and thank you for believing in us so early on when the story was still finding its feet, my editing skills were still very much fledgling, and everything was just taking its first few faltering steps into that galaxy far, far away. Thank you for your support and your belief, Rob, and thank you to everyone who's backed the show, and thank you to everyone who just listens to the show. You all mean a great, great deal to us, and we are delighted to have you with us on this journey. It's great to know that people like the stories we're telling. It means so, so much to us, and it's one of the things that's kept certainly me going throughout, everything. Look after yourselves, my friends. Stay safe, stay cool, remain delightful, and we will see you next time. Force Majeure is played using the Star Wars Force and Destiny game system by Fantasy Flight Games and Lucas Books. Our intro music for this season is Unholy Night by Kevin MacLeod, and our outro music remains Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale, both used with gratitude under the Creative Commons license. If you like the show and want to interact with us, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, all of which are at Force Majeure Pod, though Twitter is probably where you're going to find us more regularly. If you enjoy what we do and want to support the show, there's 3 ways you can do that. The first is via our Patreon at patreon.com/forcemajeurepod. The second is by buying us a coffee at ko-fi.com/forcemajeurepod. And the third way is by rating and reviewing us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere where you can find us. We really like reviews. It tells us that we're telling the stories that you want to hear and helps other people find us. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.